So in HANA database, the data is actually stored into the different layer. I told you we have in the last session when we had a discussion about the HANA database. In HANA database, we have two layers. Okay. One layer, the below layer, we call it as a persistence layer. Okay. And this layer would be your in-memory layer. Although we call HANA database as a in-memory database system, but it has a both kind of database. It's a combination of your classic database, which run on the rotating disk and drum, and it's also a combination of your in-memory database system, right? So what happened that your data, we also have a persistent layer, which is your classic database. And then we also have a in-memory database, right? Now this in-memory database layer is called hot layer. The classic database layer is called warm layer. We have a hot layer and we have a warm layer. Okay. So that two layers are there. What happens that when a user interact, now this is very core technical concept of the database, that how the HANA database works, which is more relevant for the HANA admin people, but at least basic knowledge as a consultant, you should have it, that I will try to provide it from here. When any of this user, he would be connecting with the HANA database and he would be asking anything. He would be getting it. If he is updating it, he update into the hot layer, into the in-memory. That is a fast layer. And if you want to extract anything, he also extract from the hot layer. Okay, he also extract from the hot layer. So in-memory is the layer from where the data would be extracted, right? Then there's inherent capabilities that there is a backup of the database stored in the warm layer also. Now, why this backup has been stored in the warm layer? First thing is that the backup has been stored into the warm layer because hot layer, in-memory layer, the data is stored in the charge. Although there is all kind of power packages there, but SAP is known as the most critical systems or application used by the business. So most critical and application need to have a 24/7 support, and the data should not be never lose, right? Technically, there is, because the data is stored in the charge, somehow if HANA database go without charge, there's no charge, there's no backup, all the backups go on zero to the HANA database, whatever the data you have at the hot layer, you will lose it. You will lose the data at the hot layer, which is in memory. That's where there's a warm layer, which is the second layer, which we also call it the persistence layer, where the data remains. Even though all the charge got reduced, still the data remains. Okay. Now, then there is another layer. The another layer always happens, which we call it as a cold layer. Cold layer is not a HANA database system. Cold layer is your classic database system, which runs on the rotating disk and drum, where basically we keep on archiving the data. And this is not only with the this is not only with HANA database. In your ECC also, the classic database which we use it, we keep on archive the data so that the system performance remains safe. Good, right? So the archive data, we will be compressing it and we would be moving it to the cold layer, which is connected with the HANA database, but it is a separate database where you are pushing your archive data. That becomes the cold layer. And then there is a specific transaction code which would be able to fetch the data from the cold layer when it is required. Whenever it is required, the archive data you would be able to fetch with the specific transaction code and you would be able to get it used. So this is the hot layer, this is warm layer, and this is a cold layer. Now there's a very good concept, okay? It's difficult to imagine, but there's a very good concept which HANA admins use a lot. Another reason that why we are having a two layers here, hot layer and warm layer, this in-memory layer is very expensive layer, right? And in-memory layer, we need to make sure that it should have always empty space. Why this empty space is required in the in-memory layer? Because we say that, I told you that in recent, I was speaking MARD or nowhere we don't have a stock. So if you need to tell the stock, it means system need to do the on-the-fly calculation. So when we have reduced the table, earlier the table was there. There was some purpose for those tables, right? Which we are removing it. The purpose was to give the data quickly. Now we say that HANA database, in-memory database, data stored in charge has a high capabilities. So now we are expecting that HANA database would be calculating the stock. Anytime you press execute, enter, all the time system go into the calculation. It calculates the stock and then it give you the figure. It's always a calculated figure, which when you press MARD and execute it, or when you go to MMBE, MB52, whatever the stock you see, it is not stored anywhere. System do the fresh calculation, which is called on-the-fly calculation. System has a capability, but that capability is also a technical capability. So when multiple user comes and use the HANA database system, we need this topmost layer to be available, because at that time on-the-fly calculation will be used, and at that time this layer will start getting consumed. The top layer would be more filling it up. So we always try to make sure that 30 to 40% of the blank space is available, so that in the peak time when so many users are coming to the HANA database system, so many on-the-fly calculation happen, we should have some memory available here. We should have some memory available here, right? So to make sure that the memory is available, there would be some data which will not be using on the daily basis. Okay, let's say the purchase order which you created 3 years ago. How many chances are there that that purchase order you will be hitting and you would be seeing those purchase orders? A production order which was created 5 years ago, how many chances are there you would be seeing and opening those production orders? Very less, right? We work most 90% of the transaction, or 95 to 98% of the transaction would be happening, if you will see, within a year of the transactions. Within a year, whatever the data we have done, or maximum 2 years, whatever the data we have done, 95 to 98% transaction would be happening there. Now, with this concept of different layer of data, SAP also has one concept where within one table, and this is the inherent concepts of HANA database. Within one table, you can mention that this data would remain in my hot layer, which is your, let's say, the last 2 years of data. Whatever the transaction which has been completed, and which is more than 2 years old, would be pushed to the warm layer, would be pushed here. Okay, would be pushed here. The HANA admin, your basis guy, not exactly the basis. There's a separate people, HANA admin is there, who knows HANA 1.0, HANA 2.0 certification they have done. They manage the database. They would be controlling that. They manage the memories, and they would be writing this. They have a specific transaction queries they would be writing, and with this, they would be pushing down the data. And this data can be also, they have rights, they can manually also push. They can push the full table to the warm layer. Full table, they can push the warm layer, okay? And let's say a user come. Let's say later on a user come and he said, I need a data. User come and he made a query. I needed to see a purchase order which is closed 3 years ago, or a sales order which is closed 3 years ago. I want to see. The query will always come here. System will find that this data is available here, and system will automatically push this data to the in-memory, and from the in-memory, the data would be given to the user. So your HANA admin people, they keep on seeing that what is the data which is not most used. That data, they pushed it to the warm layer. But if a user want it, HANA database automatically push it to the hot layer, and user get the data from hot layer from the in-memory. That's why you will also see whenever you would be using it, a HANA database system, or S4 HANA system, you will see that as soon as, if you will experience as a consultant when the project start, and you're working onto the fresh system, the basis team and the HANA team, they have created a fresh system and they have given to you. That happens a lot when every time we move to the next version. First time any transaction we do, it takes a lot of time. Because first time when you're doing, all of your data, whatever the kind of data is there, is stored in your warm layer. So your hot layer start building it up when first time you start doing the transaction. That's why that we always said that whenever you do the first time the transaction in the HANA database system in S4 HANA, it will work slow. But after doing that transaction 1 or 2 times, your warm layer, hot layer has been built, and then we will be using from hot layer. That makes the data read very fast.